large-scale construction projects like Sutter Health?
Sorry, I'm going to try this a different way. I guess that won't work either. Always, this is about negotiating with developers and with landowners and putting together contracts that have real teeth and real goals in them. DeWitt has talked a lot about, having penalties, financial penalties for developers and others who don't meet these goals. I think that's absolutely right. And I think that, all of us as a community have to come together and also hold developers accountable. I mean, we cannot just allow these people to make empty promises, to come into our communities, and then break those promises and do what they want. So we need liquidated damages, we need strong contracts, we need people negotiating who have the best interest of the community in mind, not the best interest of the developers, and we need the community to stand up and be vocal when developers break their promises, because as politicians, we need that support too. We need you behind us when we make those decisions.
And to Eric Smith, what do you know about parcel E2 and what do you think should happen to it? Take a moment to explain E2.
Oh my goodness. I know quite a bit about parcel E2. I'm probably the only candidate up here who's actually removed hazardous waste from the Bayview Hunters Point shipyard via rail and using local trucks. Parcel E2 has over 1 million tons of some of the most toxic, nastiest stuff you can imagine. It's got the leftover debris from all of the ships that came back from World War II during their testing out there in the Pacific. And it's not your typical landfill. It's not lined like any of the landfills of modern day. They just came back, they dumped it, all the experiments they did on animals and cows and everything else was dumped out there. I think parcel E2 needs to be cleaned up totally. The Navy doesn't really want to do it. They only want to take out, I don't know, 50, 60,000 cubic yards of the nastiest stuff and cover up the rest. The work that I do with Waste Solutions Group, the Navy, and others, I know that you can take it out. I know it can be done. And I want to be the supervisor that oversees that happens. Thank you.
All right, somebody wrote in, who do you support for Board of Supervisors president? And I know it's impossible kind of to know who would be on there, but I hate to put anyone on the spot, but if anyone has an answer, I think we can give you a couple seconds to give your input. Who do you think, if you were on the board, who would you support for board president? Anybody? Okay, Eric.
I happen to like a guy named David Shute.
Anyone else want to endorse someone not in the room? All right, excellent.
You, Melissa?
Yes, right here. Another question I get all the time, I'll open up if anyone has an answer, is who's going to be the next mayor? You can be the next mayor. Anybody got this? Nobody? People hate this question. They hate to be put on the spot, but anyone gutsy enough to take a guess at it?
The question is, should be who's going to be the interim mayor? That's important.
All right. There's two questions there. You're right. Who do you think? Let's assume Mayor Newsom wins. Who do you think would be the interim mayor until the public will elect mayor? Anybody have a guess?
I have a guess.
Yeah.
I have a guess. I'd like to guess that it would be Art Agnos, former mayor of San Francisco. Art Agnos. He's well versed. He knows the politics of San Francisco. He knows how to manage it as an executive, and he has no further political ambitions. He just that. He would be an interim, and that would allow the next person as a candidate to run fair in the election.
All right. Art Agnos. Anybody else? Lynn?
Actually, I like that answer about a former mayor, but if it were I who could choose the next mayor of San Francisco on an interim basis, it would also be someone who has no further political ambitions, and I'm talking about Willie Brown.
Judy.
Yeah, they heard Willie Brown and they wanted to change issue. We've got budget issues coming. We're facing $700 million. We've got a lot of things that are going to require people that have been involved in it, that have been working on it. I mean, there are many capable supervisors right now on the board that do a good job. They know about the budget. They've been negotiating on our behalf, and they've been working with the community. I'd be in favor of one of them.
And I know a lot of folks are throwing around names. I think it's important for the next board of supervisors in District 10 to negotiate which mayoral interim mayoral candidate is going to stand up for District 10. Is going to put the services in District 10. Is going to make sure that we appoint people in key land use committees that are going to make sure that they stand up here. It's unacceptable that we have more liquor stores and grocery stores. That's the key land use decision. We have to make sure that our schools are open. We need to make sure that we don't just throw our vote away to whoever is politically, convenient. We need to make sure that person works for our vote and earns our support for interim mayor, and they stand up for working families and services in this district. And that's the person that I'm going to support as interim mayor, as District 10 supervisor.
You know such person? Yourself, obviously. All right. So, Kelly.
Well, I'm certain there's going to be a change in leadership, because I think he may lose this election in November, and so next year we'll have the same mayor we have now, who's not going to come in.
Well, I'd just like to say that although I fear that Tony is right, if Newsom does win and does not become the mayor, I think this actually does present, for me, as an avowed progressive, a unique opportunity to find someone to be the mayor who is a progressive. Because let's face it, in San Francisco, money talks. It costs a lot of money to run the mayoral election. That's why we end up with people who are serving the interests of people with money and not the people here in District 10. They're serving the wealthy and not the working class. So I think that we need to take this opportunity, if we have it, to elect a progressive for mayor and start changing some fundamental policies in the city as a whole.
All right, thank you. Okay, so we're going to move to one more final round of questions from the audience, and then each candidate will